Welcome to the next lecture where we'll be talking about what is Nuke. I'll have a brief overview of another compositing package and I want to compare that to Nuke and show you the differences between Nuke and other compositing packages and just highlight how Nuke is such a powerful piece of software to use for visual effects. So what you see in front of me is After Effects. Well, it's a screenshot of After Effects within the confines of Nuke. I hope that doesn't confuse you, but this is a screenshot of After Effects. Now, a lot of people know After Effects. After Effects is an Adobe product, but it differs in the way it works to Nuke in one specific way, and that is that After Effects is a layer-based compositing package, and Nuke is a node-based compositing package. So what's the difference? Well, a layer-based compositing package like After Effects that you see here, it represents each media object in a composite as separate layers within a timeline. So you can see here in this composite, the artist has 7 different layers, all acting on the footage and doing different things. And how this works is that the program renders each layer separately, one after the other, starting from the bottom and working to the top. Just a bit like Photoshop does. So each layer has its own hierarchical order and is enacted on separately, one after the other. The real advantage of a program like After Effects is that it's very good for things like motion graphics and is very popular with motion graphics artists, doing things like titles and very graphical ads where you have text moving or basic vector characters, things like that. It isn't that different from Photoshop, and it does seamlessly work between Photoshop quite well. So it is very popular for things like that. But it does start to struggle when you start having more and more detailed and more complex composites, as we'll show you soon. So that is just a real basic understanding of After Effects and how it works. So just to recap, it's separate layers of objects and footage, one after the other, all with different timelines. So we'll just skip out of that now and welcome you to Nuke. So I want to show you how Nuke is different. Well, as I said, Nuke is a node-based compositing package. So we'll get rid of that. And here we have a picture in Nuke. Now, what is a node? Well, a node is an object which acts on the footage in a certain way. So you can see here I have a bunch of nodes and each node does something different. Node-based compositing represents an entire composite as a tree graph or a flowchart, as you might call it, and it links media objects and effects in a procedural map like this and intuitively lays it out from the source to the final output. And in fact, all compositing packages handle compositing behind the scenes in this way, but this type of interface gives you great flexibility and it's very, very powerful, and it allows you to have extremely complex composites and be able to work them through quite structured way without it being very confusing. If you were to try and do a very, very complex composite in After Effects, it would start becoming too much to understand what was happening. And I've got a little really basic composite here that we're going to run through. Now, we haven't talked about how Nuke works. We're going to get to that very, very soon, but I'm just going to show you this inside Nuke so you have a basic understanding of how it's working. Okay, so here we have a helicopter. Now, the helicopter is yellow. Let's assume we want to make that helicopter blue. So you can see here, if I unconnect these nodes here, we have a very basic tree. And we have a yellow helicopter, which I've shifted with a hue shift to blue. And then we have a blur. So let's say the task is to shift it to blue and then blur out this registration here on the side of the helicopter. Well, our first process is to add a node which does that, which would be a hue shift. We'll learn about these later on. So I've added the hue shift here, but let's say I want to exclude all this stuff here which I don't want to be blue, all this grass and flowers and things. I don't want that to be shifted to blue. I just want the helicopter to be blue. So I create a matte, and we'll go into detail about how these mattes are created in the future. And there's a matte I've roughly created of the sections of the helicopter that I would like to turn blue. it's only as simple as plugging in the mask into my mat here, and there we go. I've excluded the sections I don't want, and I'll just show you the difference. I've excluded the sections I don't want and kept the areas I do. So you can see there I've shifted I've excluded those areas out on the grass here. I've changed the colour of this painting on the runway here, and this is my result. I've changed the colour of the helicopter. Now, next in the process, let's say I want to add a blur. Well, the way Nuke reads the nodes is it starts at the top and works its way down. So it's a bit opposite. It's a bit of an opposite to how Photoshop works in that way. Is that the layers work from the top down, and then you act on those layers with nodes as you go down and down and down and down the tree. And this space here can go on for a long, long time, as you can see. So we'll zoom back in there. So I've got a blur here, but let's say I've got my blue helicopter, but I only want to blur this section. Well, again, this blur node has a mask input, and I can simply plug in a mask input, which is the area I want here. You can see I've masked that off quickly, and that blurs out the section that I've selected. So it's very powerful because you can quickly change aspects of the image, and the best thing about it is that no matter how complicated the script gets, you can just follow your way up the script and see what's happening. So let's say I want to grade the whole scene again, and I want to reduce the gamma and make it a bit darker, and I'll put the gain up a little bit to crush it, and then I want to I might want to blur the whole thing again, so I'll just blur it all, so make the image a bit soft, a bit more, and let's say that's my wonderful final composite. Well, we'll go back and figure out what's going on here. So first of all, we have our base image, our helicopter. Second of all, we're transferring the colour from yellow to blue using a hue shift, which is masked by this alpha channel I've created. Then we're doing a blur, but the blur is only affecting this registration area because it's masked again by this mask I've created. Finally, we've done a grade, and then we've blurred the image again, and then you can work your way back up in the same fashion and come back to the original footage. So hopefully that gives you a brief understanding of how a node-based compositing package works. And of course you can create separate separate trees and attach separate trees to other trees, and you can have subcomps, so you have a large tree and a large tree over here, and they connect together, so you can organise it in quite a good way. And there's a lot of tools that Nuke provides to help you to organise this and label things like that, and we'll get into that quite soon. So hopefully that gives you a rundown of how a node-based compositing package works and how it differs from a layer-based compositing package such as After Effects.